My name's Margaret Walsh, and I'm a professor of sociology here at Keene State, and I've been here since 2000. And right now I'm also directing the honors program, but the course that we're talking about is called Nicaragua and Change, and it's part of the integrative studies program.
And I'm D Halter. I'm the budget coordinator, so I work in the finance and planning division. And over the years I've worked with a number of student groups, usually with short-term trips, frequently spring break, but this time was January, doing everything from habitat projects to Katrina work. So this was very, very much in my area of interest, and something that not only do I enjoy doing, but I enjoy seeing the students that I have the opportunity to work with and travel with for a week or so, see them live and grow from it.
I am Carleigh Warner. I'm a sophomore here at Keene State College. I am a sociology major with a minor in communications. Well, last fall we actually met with Peggy Walsh, and I had her as a professor, so she kind of let us know about this trip. So we met a few times last fall, and then this January we went for a week trip down to Nicaragua, and where we spent some time in Managua, which is the capital, Rio Blanco, which is it's like roughly the size of Keene, New Hampshire, so we traveled 5 hours from Managua into the central Nicaragua, and then we spent one night in Granada, which is kind of a really touristy area.
So the course this semester, we went to Nicaragua to visit a cooperative that we've had a relationship with for a number of years, and we communicate with them to find out what we will do when we're together. And this year they were interested in, they already have a school, they already have a church, they have a community center, a youth center. They just got electricity in 2007, and what they needed was a place for very young children to develop. And so the project that we worked on was working together to purchase some paints, to design what this would look like, and to spend a day. It was a short project, a day together, not just the Keene State students, but the community who lives on this farming cooperative, children and adults, to paint this place together and to get it in the kind of condition that they needed it to be in order to work with the young children.
It was open to all students, but I hadn't really heard about it. It's mainly, sociology students, but Carleigh came back to my apartment one day and she was like, "You're not going to believe where this trip is going." So I was really excited. I hadn't been abroad. And this sounded like a great idea. So
yeah, the beauty of this trip is that it fits anyone's schedule. It's an integrative class, so really it can go into anyone's schedule, which is the nice part.
Yeah. Well, in 2004 we first went to Nicaragua, and I remember the students sitting at the university talking to some other students who were Nicaraguan, and they were having this conversation about their activism and what they're interested in and what their goals are. And so after the Nicaraguan students had talked a little bit, they turned and said to the Keene State students, "What are you working towards? What are you fighting for?" And for a moment everyone sort of looked around at each other and thought, well, most of those social movements happened in the 1960s. We're not really fighting for anything. But when they came home, they asked themselves that question a little bit more, sort of, what are we really doing here at college? What is it we're interested in? And I think they came to the conclusion that they're really interested in building stronger communities, that they have their own individual goals, but they also are really interested in working towards some group goals.
And of course, one of the exciting things is while this work was going on, each one of us had homestays with families within this community. So it was an opportunity for us and the students to really step outside of our culture and live in the life of somebody from another part of the world and see something from another set of eyes, from another dimension.
I had no clue what I was signing up for. I think we kind of both went into it open-heartedly. We didn't know what to expect. I didn't even know where Nicaragua was until I actually signed up for it, and then I was like, I should probably figure out where that is on the map.
In traveling there, students experience a completely different lifestyle and a different set of values. One of the things I've heard students say is, comparatively we have so much, and frequently we're complaining and we're unhappy. And comparatively, when you're there, they have so little, but they seem to be extremely happy. And that frequently gets people scratching their heads a little tiny bit. It's like, well, you definitely have to draw a line here between quantities and values, and how much a person has amassed in a lifetime versus how much happiness is actually obtained. And I think one of the things that I see there that I think is of tremendous value is the strong sense of family and community, something that we seem a little more distant here with.
I guess you learn, it sounds a little cheesy, but you learn a lot about yourself when you just are thrown into a situation where you don't know the language. I know a few people on the trip had some Spanish in their background, but I took French in high school, so it's it was, the communication definitely was difficult. But then once you get past that and you realize that you really don't need to use words to communicate, that's when you really start just opening yourself up and just kind of, you're along for the ride. You're just immersing yourself in their culture, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, and students can begin to rely on each other a bit more than they do when they're on campus because they get to know each other. They're together all the time. They're with us. They see us in different contexts. And so we have these fascinating conversations that aren't limited to an hour and 20 minutes. They go on and on. And what I love about traveling with students is that those relationships continue to be strong and inquisitive and intellectual, and they have a life of their own. And so many students will say when they come back from an experience like this that they'd like to return, and some do. One of our students went back and did an internship. One went back and learned Spanish after graduation on his own. And and it gives students confidence, I think, about their next step after graduation. It helps them rely on themselves and to reach out to other people and to imagine that they can truly see the world and be part of it.
I feel like it was a great experience, but it would have even been better if I'd done it right in the middle, sandwiched it right in the middle of my education, right in between sophomore and junior year, because I feel like that would give enough time to kind of adapt to college and then have this eye-opening experience, and then you come back and you're just ready to learn, not just about Nicaragua or wherever you travel to, but everything, it just really opens up all your senses. So I'd recommend it to anybody. I really think it should be just part of everybody's education.
Yeah, I went on this first trip, and I promise I'll go on a trip like this every year until I finish college.
I had some sociology students a few years ago who did a survey of the campus, and these were students who were asking questions like, when you came in, did you think you were going to study abroad? Did you think you'd go out and do some experiential learning? And most students came in, over half of them said yes, they would want to. But fewer than 5% actually did. And so the students were struck by that, and they said why. And the kinds of things they expected to find were that there would be financial reasons, and that is a part of it. But it was more than that. It was also about advising. It was about the idea hadn't been suggested to them. So I think it tells us a lot. As you ask about what's ahead for the next 5 years, I think that faculty and staff have a real responsibility to open up these kinds of options for students so that they can see themselves as people who will be global citizens, who will go out and do some traveling, who will be of service to others in that way.
Yeah, I think it kind of opened my eyes. Again, I've lived in Keene the majority of my life. Yes, I've traveled different parts in the United States, but until you travel out of the country and really get a different feel of how fortunate the United States is and how much we have compared to other places. So yeah, it was definitely an eye-opening. It made me appreciate what I have, but also made me want to give back to people who have less and are less fortunate than we.
Skye Stevenson, our Global Education Office Director, said a lovely phrase to me recently. She said, we can bring Keene to the world, and we can bring the world to Keene. And I think programs like this, and there are many of them now on campus, they do exactly that. I think that the word of mouth on trips like these are that they're incredibly positive, that they're something that is truly experiential, that they help students to learn more than they think they can in the classroom, although I think learning by reading is fine too. But it's one more added dimension to the education that they're receiving here at Keene State.
I definitely feel more of a responsibility to engage other people on campus, and talk with them about what I saw. Before, somebody would come back from a trip abroad and, you'd look at their pictures and you'd hear the stories, but you can't really relate to it until you've done it yourself. And then once you come back, you just have so much knowledge that you just want to just share with everybody. And I think that's what really changed me, is just, being more of a citizen of the world rather than just a citizen of Keene, New Hampshire or the United States.